Okay, welcome back IT9. Today is the last day for our slider puzzle. And what we're going to do is we're going to work on our scramble routine. So this has got to be the set of buttons that scrambles our tiles from their original position so that the player can start playing them and try to resolve it. Now obviously when the game launches we want the slider puzzle to be solved so they can see what the final image looks like, and then we're going to click on the scramble button to scramble them, and then they get to start solving it. So, and then we're also going to work on our scoring mechanism, how we're going to keep track of our score. What we want you to do is to open up your form, your designer view for your form, and it's going to look a bit like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull down the options menu and double click on the scramble button. I've already done mine, so my code's pre-created, so yours is going to look a little bit different. At any rate, we'll have something that looks similar to this. Let's start with the private sub, and then we'll give the name of your scramble button. In this case it's a scramble. For me it's just called scramble, and then toolstrip menu _ click. So this is the event when they click on that tool. All we're doing for this is going to look a little more complicated than it actually is, but all we're doing is we're going to simulate 100 button clicks. So we're going to get the computer to figure out where the algorithm gets the computer to figure out where the empty tile is, and it'll click one of the buttons nearby, and it's going to look for one of the various buttons that it could click on, and then click on it, and that'll swap all of our images. Once that's done, the tiles will be, suitably scrambled, and we can start solving our puzzle. And the reason why we're doing it this way instead of just presetting it somewhere, because we don't want the person to figure out, the algorithm for solving our slider puzzle right away, and then once they've memorized that pattern, it'd be easy enough to solve. So all we're going to do is inside our scramble toolstrip menu click event, set a random seed. So we're going to create a variable called random seed, type short, and then we're going to you got to call it this randomize function, otherwise we don't get a very random number. And then we're going to create something called a loop. So this is a loop that's going to count. In this particular case, it's going to count from 1 to 100, and it's going to repeat the code that's inside it 100 times. That's all of this mumbo jumbo right to the end here. It's going to repeat this 100 times. So this is our 100 button click simulation. Inside that loop block, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a random number. And we want to create a random number between 1 and 100. So this will suffice. Our random seed variable that we created up above is going to be assigned a value anywhere from 1 to 100. Actually, this is technically 0 to 99, but that's okay. Then we're going to call up these blocks of code. We're going to look at that random seed, and we're going to figure out where our empty tile is and what the random seed is, and then we're going to start swapping our buttons accordingly, or clicking our buttons accordingly. So for example, if the empty tile is in square 1, so remember that's way over here for me, that's this one here. If the empty tile is there, the only two possibilities for a quick event would be 2 or 4. So this is what we're doing here. We're going to say, hey, half the time when the empty tile is in square 1, we're going to swap it with 1 and 2. The other half the time, we're going to swap it with 4 and 1, or 1 and 4. So what's going to happen is it's going to look and go, okay, if the empty tile is here, 50% of the time it's going to swap it with this one, 50% of the time it's going to swap it with this one. And those are the only two possibilities when the empty tile is in block 1, or in tile 1. So that's what this block of code here does. It says, hey, if that random number that we created, and it will be completely random, is less than 50, so it's between 1 and 50, we're going to swap tiles 1 and 2, and then we're going to call up our endgame sequence and swap, endgame module, and swap tiles 1 and 2 as well. If it's greater than 51 or 50, so 51 or larger, well then we're going to swap it with the other one. We're going to swap it with tile 4, and it's exactly the same block of code as we had above, except we're swapping two different tiles. Now, again, there's a different situation when the empty tile is in 2. Remember, if the empty tile is in either 1, 3, 9, or 7, there's only 2 directions it can go. When the empty tile is in 2, 4, 6, or 8, it can go 3 directions, so it can go up, down, left, and right, or up, left, and right, or down, left, and right, depending which one it is. And if it's obviously in 5, it can go 4 different directions. So that's why we have these differing number of branches. Alright, so when the empty tile is in tile 2, that's the second one over on the top row, well, there's a different situation, obviously. So we now have 3 possible click events that'll work. We can swap it with 1, That's this guy here. We can swap it with 2. That's this guy here. Or sorry, 3. Or we can swap it with the one below it. Okay, so that's exactly what we're doing here, and we're simulating those click events on all of these. Likewise, you can continue this branch as you work your way down. This is tile 3. This is tile 4. This is tile 5. 5's the one with the larger number of branches, obviously. And you can follow this exact same pattern all the way down. And that's pretty much it for our scramble routine. When we run it, hit the play button here. So here, again, starts off solved. Click on the options menu, click on the scramble button, and there is my scrambled slider puzzle and ready to be played. Now what we want to do now is we want to figure out how our scoring is going to work. So I'm going to close this off. What we're going to do for scoring is we're going to set up a little bit of a different one. There's different ways of scoring it. You can score your game based on the number of click events, or you can score your game based on time, or you can come up with some sort of hybrid. I'm just going to base mine on time, since we already have a timer, a clock timer ready to go. So what I'm going to do is, once the player has solved the puzzle, so once we get back to our home state, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, those tiles in order, I'm going to stop the timer and print their score out here in the label. So we've already got the code for that. We're pretty good. Let's go minimize our scramble routine here. Here's our timer clock. Remember how the timer worked was every 1 second our game clock will tick. So we're going to add 1 to the game clock counter. Then we just spit it out in the label. What we want to do now is once the thing is solved, we're going to spit that time out as our score. So if you remember correctly, we've already created an endgame sequence over here. Or are we here? No, sorry, my bad. Endgame sequence is there. There's our code for the module. Alright, those are our start positions. So again, we've got this endgame sequence here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. When this is true, it means they've solved our puzzle. We're going to go to Form 1, go to label property called score on Form 1, and we're going to set it to the word score with a colon at the end of it, and we're going to add our SHT time value to it. One last thing we're going to have to do, which is something I took out a bit earlier, is go back to our form here and go to the end of your tile clicked sequence. So pull up your subroutine called tile_click. This is the one, again, that handles all 9 tile clicks. You have to go to the very end of that and add this little if structure at the end of it. So basically this structure says if we've hit the end game, or if the end game dot check positions equals true, put equals true there. When that's true, then pop up a message box saying congratulations, you solved the puzzle. So now when we play our game, it should look like this. And I'm not going to scramble it. I'm just going to swap the one tile. So now when I click this one back, pops up with this, tells me how long it took me to solve the puzzle. But we might even want to stop the clock as well. Let's go back in there and fix that. And let's go enabled equals false. I'm going to actually set the default value for my timer from enabled equals true to false. So now we can go back to our form, and then on the scramble click event is when we can actually start the timer. So it gives them time to study the image before the timer starts ticking. So I'm going to go back into here. Here's our scramble, and I'm simply going to go e.tmrclock.enabled equals true and set it there. It's probably a better way of handling it, because when they launch the program, you don't want the timer ticking right. Let's let this load up. You don't want the timer to start ticking right now because they're not solving the puzzle. They're just kind of getting an idea what it looks like. So now, when they scramble the puzzle, then the timer starts. And it will actually stop when they actually get the final puzzle solved. So that's pretty much it.